So in this problem, we're going to try and figure out the multi-plant monopoly problem that has two marginal cost functions for two plants. And this is the information that we are given. So recall that the monopoly profit maximization condition is that marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So profit condition is that marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. But we have two marginal cost functions here, and we have the demand function right here. In order to find out the marginal revenue from the demand function, all we do is we take this term right here and multiply it by 2. So we have the demand function is equal to 120 minus 3q. And to get the marginal revenue, just multiply this term by 2. So we get the marginal revenue function, which is 120 minus 6q. Now we want to look at the marginal cost function. So we're asked to find these terms right here, these variables, which is q star, p star, q1, and q2. And q is basically q1 plus q2. So we want to start out by figuring out what q1 and q2 is from the marginal cost functions. So let's rewrite those marginal cost functions in terms of q. Let's take the first function and write that in terms of q1. So we end up getting marginal cost 1 minus 10 over 20. And let's do the same thing for marginal cost 2, which is 60 plus 5q q2 is going to equal marginal cost minus 60 over 5. So now we have both functions right here, q1 and q2. And we want to add them both to each other so we can figure out what q star is. So the next step is we're trying to figure out q. And the way we do that is we set q1 plus q2 equal to q. So then we have q being MC1 minus 10 over 20 plus MC2 minus 60 over 5. And we would solve to figure out what q is. Let's do that very quickly. First, we'll break this term up so we can simplify. And then we get q is equal to 5 over 20 MC minus 25 over 2. And then we get q is equal to MC over 4 minus 25 over 2. And notice that, recall that our profit maximizing condition is MR is equal to MC. And now that we have one equation here that involves Q and MC, let's isolate for MC and set the equation equal to MC so we can set MR equals to MC at the end. So the next step is solve for MC. So we have our equation and just solving for MC. Perfect. So now we have both our conditions, our marginal cost function right here, and our marginal revenue function right here. So let's set both of these equal to each other. So since MR is equal to MC, let's take this equation. Marginal revenue is equal to 120 minus 6Q. And marginal cost, which is 4Q plus 50. Set both of these equal to each other. And once we solve this, we're going to get the value of Q, which is 7. So we figured out what our first variable is. Now, all we have to do to find P is we take that Q value and sub it into our demand function. So next step, sub Q equals to 7 into the demand function. To find out what the profit maximizing price is. Again, our demand function is given, which is 120 minus 3Q. So then we have P is equal to 120 minus 3Q, sub in Q into our function. We get a price of 99. So now we solved for our second variable. Now, remember in the beginning we isolated for Q1 and Q2 right here. And this is because we figured out what our marginal cost is going to be right here. We figured out that the marginal cost function is MC is equal to 4Q plus 50. But we also figured out what the value of Q is. So what we want to do is we want to sub Q into our marginal cost function to figure out what our marginal cost is going to be, the marginal cost value. So we want to sub Q equals to 7 into our marginal cost function, which is 4Q plus 50. Let's do that real quick. Therefore, we have our marginal cost being 78. So we know that the total marginal cost for both plants, because remember up here we had the marginal cost for the first plant and the marginal cost for the second plant. We have the total marginal cost between the two plants being 78. Now we want to figure out what the quantity that should be produced in each firm is in order to maximize the profit generated from that specific firm or that specific plant. So we're going to sub in marginal cost in each of these equations in order to figure out what the quantity that should be produced in each plant is. So Q1 is equal to, let's write that down here real quick. So we have Q1 is equal to marginal cost minus 10 over 5. And we have Q2 is equal to marginal cost minus 60 over 5. Now having these two equations and having the value for the marginal cost, we're able to sub in that marginal cost value into each of these equations. So we have Q1 is equal to 78 for the marginal cost minus 10 over 5. And we get the value of Q1 being 3.4. Same thing for Q2. 78 minus 60 over 5. And the value of Q2 is going to be 3.6. And as you can see here, the total quantity for both firms is going to add up to be what Q is right here. So therefore, this is true now, where Q is equal to Q1 plus Q2. We have Q is equal to 7, which is the same as 3.4 plus 3.6. So now we figured out all our variables from the equation. We figured out what Q is, total quantity to maximize profit. We figured out what the price is, and we figured out how much each firm is going to produce.